Another really hot topic these days, especially with the increased awareness of artificial intelligence and more non-technical or non-AI people using the technology, is prompt engineering. So the art and science of telling a machine like ChatGPT exactly what you want it to do and getting really high quality outputs. Now, there's plenty of guides out there on the internet about prompt engineering, but Paul, you actually wrote about a really interesting possible future that you see as possible for prompt engineering. And you posted this initially on LinkedIn saying, quote, how soon until we have a prompt copilot that helps users write far more effective and optimized generative AI prompts? Think of it as a prompting assistant that improves and expands your prompts as you type them. So you're kind of raising this issue that it's possible with all the emphasis and importance we place today on prompt engineering that it may actually not be that important of a career path or a skill set to necessarily develop, on a long enough timeline. So, have you learned of any companies since posting that are building a prompt copilot to help out with prompts? Do you expect someone to build this soon?
I do expect it to be built really soon. If I had the ability, I would build it myself because, but I don't think it's going to matter. I think it's going to be essential within any of these application companies and the language model companies. So the point I was making, and this sort of something I thought about Friday as I was doing a talk, it just kind of arrived like, oh, wait, that's probably what's going to happen. Like as I was explaining prompting to these people. Um, so yeah, there's all this talk and all this like onus put on the user right now. So if you think about these application companies, these AI writing tools, image generation, video generation companies, as a user, it's amazing technology. But your ability to get value from them is actually largely dependent upon your ability to develop a prompt. And if you're on Twitter anywhere these days, like everybody's got these threads about
Hmm.
how to do
Yeah.
prompting and like it's really impressive stuff. Like, but they're really going deep on how to get crazy value out of these generative AI tools. But the vast majority of people are never going to take the time to do that. And so if you're an application company, if you're building a generative AI tool, the value to market for your company, the ability to scale that company is dependent upon the ability of the users to properly prompt the system. That's a major friction point. So there is massive incentive for the SaaS companies building it and for the language model companies that are developing these models that are built on like Cohere and OpenAI and Anthropic to not rely on the user to get good at prompting because otherwise you're never going to scale the company the way you could. So it only seems obvious that you would have this. And so I've known this for a while. Like I've thought about like, okay, prompting at some point won't be as important. It was actually one of the points I made in my keynote on Thursday for the AI Writers Summit. But I hadn't thought about the Copilot thing. I was like, oh wait, this is actually infinitely solvable right now. So if you think about the way Google Smart Compose works, where it just like finishes your sentences, it's kind of predicting the words in the sentence. And that's the basic thing that we're doing with any AI writing tool. So one of the most advanced areas right now in generative AI is coding. So the ability for like in GitHub Copilot and Replit Ghostwriter, which we'll talk about Replit in a couple minutes, they're completing code as you're going. It's like taking its knowledge base of coding and able to truly assist you in creating these things. Well, there's no way that that doesn't happen with prompting because a prompt is basically just a set of instructions, but the system can learn what a great prompt looks like and help you build it out. So once it knows you and it knows what you're doing, it can naturally start auto completing or assisting you as you're going in this thing. So yeah, it was one of more of those like I just threw it out there like, hey, I'm thinking out loud here on LinkedIn, but
Mhm.
isn't this something that seems obvious and is anyone building it? So to your question about building it, Megan from Jasper, I think, commented that they had a version of it in there, like almost like a prompt recommender,
Okay. In the
which
tool Jasper.ai.
yeah, which seemed
Gotcha.
like it was heading in that direction where it was like giving you like improving your prompt basically. It's not exactly what I was envisioning, but I know I'm not the first person to think of this. And I'm sure there's developers working on it, but no, I haven't seen anything yet where someone's like, "Yep, built it. Here it is. Here's the Chrome extension. Go plug it in." But it seems inevitable that it's going to be baked into these applications and into the language models themselves.
So we kind of talk about prompting, as cool as it is, as still this friction point for businesses, right? It's like
Yeah.
limiting our possible output, even if you're okay at it. And especially as we roll these tools out to people that have no real idea what prompting is or prompt engineering. What happens when we remove that friction point? Like, what are some of the benefits? How does that change the game?
I think more people will realize the power of these models way faster. Because again, like the example I gave is if I go into Dolly right now or Midjourney even, and I try and create something in it, I'm not a designer. Like I'm not
Mm,
going to get the same value out of it that a designer would. And so that to me is if they make it so that I can prompt at the same level as a great designer, well, now I'm all over that tool because now I can use it with much greater immediate value to me as a user. And so I think you're going to see adoption rates skyrocket for these tools. And also the value people get out of the tools will become greater. But it'll also then trigger the impact on the workforce and knowledge
mhm.
workers and creative workers much, much faster, which goes back to the importance of having these really hard conversations and getting the government involved because it's going to have a really quick impact. But I think that's the major takeaway for me is if these companies can build this capability in there, then the utilization rates will skyrocket for the tools and people will get way more value from them.
That's awesome.